of World Crisis Radio. This is now our first program of the new year, 2010, but let me hasten to add that we are recording on Tuesday, December 29th because of the holiday schedule of various people involved. However, we will attempt to keep you abreast of these developments conceptually. Originally, we planned to devote this to a retrospective prospective of 09 and 10 long-term trends, but I think right now we can best do this by attempting to address the long-term trends through a concrete case study, and that is to say, first of all, an analysis of the exploits of Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab of Nigeria, who, of course, is the patsy taken into custody in Detroit on Christmas Day after a flight from Lagos, Nigeria to Amsterdam in the Netherlands and then across to Detroit. The headlines are, of course, that this person shows every sign of being a protected patsy, a puppet, part of an orchestrated and staged event. He is an asset controlled by the U.S. intelligence community, perhaps with original input from the British Londonistan patsy recruiting operation of Brixton Mosque, Finsbury Mosque, but that part is a little bit hypothetical at this point. It is clearly yet another provocation by the U.S. intelligence community, capping a year which has now been the busiest since 2001, according to Brian Jenkins of the Rand Corporation, quoted in the press. I think it's the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal. Brian Jenkins, who studies terrorism for the Rand Corporation, says we've had 12 significant incidents in the United States in 2009, and that is the most, he says, since 2001. And we'll go through some of that scheduling, but let's look into the case itself. Now, this Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab, he's somebody who is the son of a very rich Nigerian banker, and he studied in Londonistan, that is to say, the greatest center of Islamic radicalism, a patsy milieu like no other. The area of chatter, the jihadi networks come together in London just beyond all comparison. As President Putin of Russia pointed out, there's recruitment going on there for Chechnya. As Muammar Gaddafi pointed out after 9/11, this is the world capital of terrorist recruiting. So he studied in Londonistan at University College London. Now, leaping ahead a little bit, everybody points to the fact that Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalab is supposed to be a parallel life, in Plutarch's sense, to Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. There are many parallels. Richard Reed, of course, the shoe bomber, was arrested in December of 2001, right after 9/11, with this very unreliable explosive PETN in his shoes. The thing that we want to point out about Richard Reed right now is that he, of course, was a mentally retarded vagrant, a homeless man, a wretch, who was sleeping through charity on the floor of the Brixton Mosque when the recruitment operation ongoing picked him up. So this Finsbury-Brixton axis deserves special attention. So he comes out of Londonistan, and his father has an apartment which is not exactly the top of world luxury, but it is in the West End in Marylebone district of London, and it's actually in Mansfield Street. So it's something that would cost you about $4 million. Of course, that's the father's apartment. As soon as he was arrested, he immediately begins spouting, "I am Al-Qaeda. I am from Al-Qaeda. I got my device in Yemen. I got my device in Yemen." So this is what he thinks it's politic to tell. This obviously very suspicious, the fact that he's willing to blab so quickly. And then on the following Monday, we have this shadowy entity, AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, that comes forward saying, yes, he's one of ours, and we're proud of him, and we organized him to do it. So it's obviously an international terrorist conspiracy. Now, leaping ahead again, this AQAP, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, just like Al-Qaeda in Iraq and the original Al-Qaeda, all creations of U.S. intelligence, the original Al-Qaeda going back to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in the early 1980s. Robert Gates knows much about this. In terms of Al-Qaeda in Iraq, it popped up just when it was absolutely necessary for propaganda reasons in the world and also for the purpose of having a counter-gang to start a civil war in Iraq. You can ask General McChrystal a lot about that one since he was very much on the scene. And now we have Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula in the middle of a civil war in Yemen. And we've got to talk about Yemen now in just a minute. But let's go back to our hero, Umar Farouk Abdul Muttalib, the patsy arrested on Christmas Day. This is someone who was denied a visa to enter the United Kingdom. He wanted to continue his studies. He seems to be interested in a master's degree. He had been studying, I think, in the United Arab Emirates in a branch of an Australian university. He apparently even got a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from University College London. And does that mean that he's not a mental deficient? I don't know. It may be his father made a large contribution to University College London, right? We've had the rather dumb sons of rich men make it through all kinds of universities around the world based on the father's checkbook, or indeed MI5 may have decided that his grades needed to be bumped up so that he could graduate. Anyway, that's all speculation, but that part doesn't really prove anything. When he wants to go back, however, to the UK to apply for some other kind of schooling, the British authorities say no. They deny him a visa. They also put him on their watch list. Now, this is important because whatever is known in Britain, at least in theory, is immediately known in the United States. Whatever is known at General Communications Headquarters, GCHQ, Cheltenham, in Britain, is immediately known in Fort Meade, Maryland, at least in theory, but in this case maybe not. But at least the British did keep him out, so therefore he's on their watch list. He then decides to go to Yemen. So he gets himself to Yemen. He, as his father says, undergoes a process of radicalization. He decides to break with his parents, but not before he got a multi-entry visa to the United States. Multi-entry visa to the United States in hand, even though the British had denied him one. Now, therefore, in November, I think November 19th, about a month ago, a little bit more, his father, the banker, First Nigerian Bank, retired chairman, goes to the U.S. Embassy in Lagos, Nigeria, and warns that his own son is now a potentially dangerous Islamist radical, a fundamentalist. Now, exactly what is said in this exchange is not known. The reports are very, very laconic. But it looks like the father essentially knows that his son is in Yemen. He fears where he is. Maybe he knows that he's in a camp because there are all kinds of stories now that the son was actually training in a camp. So what if he went to the U.S. Embassy and said, my son is training in a camp in Yemen, and you've got to help me to do something and watch out about this. Back in a minute on World Crisis Radio.